19 people watching. 26. Okay. Let me check Facebook. Facebook is live too. So we're good. Ungi's there.
Mike's on.
Oh. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. You can see the Capitol right behind us. Well, this is take 2 right now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for holding down with us. My name is Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Jonny Sue is on that camera holding those 1s and 2s, doing the work that he needs to do. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we want to do a recap of our 5-day trip. I got to lower that there. It was crazy, fam. We're going to break it down little by little, but we had a crazy 5 days, starting off with the Nancy Pelosi protest.
Yeah, so we went with Shahid Buttar's campaign, some people from Movement for the People's Party, and we were protesting at Nancy Pelosi's house. It turned out it wasn't her house because she has many apartments. She had just moved out of that one. She's rented so many of them. And she has several houses, by the way, just like she has several ice cream and refrigerators and such. But it was really fun because Pasta dressed up like a chicken and gave away chickens. And he was dancing on the roof of the Bernie van, which we'll talk about what happened with the Bernie van in a minute. But it was awesome, and people were really responsive. We got to tell people that they need to know that Shahid Buttar is in town, and he's ready to actually take on Nancy Pelosi and the corporatist Democrats. And you don't have to worry about voting for a Republican versus a Democrat. You can at least say you're happy for voting for another a Democrat because Shahid Buttar is running as a Democrat, and that was a point we made. And we were trying to point out the hashtag Pelosi must go, hashtag Nancy won't debate, which is something that she still refuses to do, debate Shahid Buttar.
Yeah, that's why the chicken suit was there. It was kind of fun getting on top of that van. Now, we didn't get to her house per se. We got to an older house of hers, and she has many different apartments. They went to another apartment of hers before, too, the week before. So it'd be almost impossible to find her, people think. However, I think we made a great message going through the streets. It was a big car caravan. There were about 15 to 20 people in that caravan, and then we parked in that neighborhood. I really wish, like the serious press or whatever you want to call it, the San Francisco Chronicle or all these mainstream newspapers would have got a nice picture right in front with me in the chicken suit and Shahid Buttar. You filmed him on top of that van. I got to tell you, his performance, his speech was pretty damn good. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say performance because I don't want it to be like he's not being real, but he gave a great speech.
Yes, he did.
Like as far as like talking about the our civil liberties and talking about why he's different than Nancy Pelosi, talking about Medicare for all, pointing out the fact that right now Nancy Pelosi is saying all these things against Donald Trump, but she's also enabling him and enabling the Pentagon. What's going on with the military-industrial complex? He brought out all of that, the infringing on our privacy rights and such, and so that's something that people needed to hear. And then we had a Nancy Pelosi fan out there trying to say, well, she's not perfect, but Trump. And it was funny because Pasta got and kind of told him off a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I got in his face a little bit. I told him, what are you talking about? She's not perfect. She enables Trump, sir. Oh, that's not true. She fights against Trump. No, but that's what they do. In the media, it looks like she opposes and the Democrat oppose, but they don't. You know why, fam? Because they fund Donald Trump's budget to the T, and that budget is all about war, is all about the military, so much that the Department of Homeland Security was where we went to next. And why don't you tell the people where we rolled up to after that?
So Trump's goons are coming to a city near you. That's right. The Department of Homeland Security has taken responsibility, of course, for sending feds to certain cities, Portland being one of the first. Now, Portland was already daily protesting the Portland Police Department, but then the feds came in because they felt like Donald Trump said everybody should be able to walk around in their city away from violence, and so that's the right-wing narrative, the establishment narrative that these people are fueling, that all of these protesters are so violent, etc. So we went to Portland to find out exactly what was going on, and what we saw were soccer moms and the dads come out and support the kids that were protesting and protect them. There are people making shields. There are people trying to protect themselves because you guys have to see, it was like a war zone. America brought their imperialism home to Portland. It is insane the amount, like it just straight up like a war zone, and gas everywhere. You can't breathe. Pasta and I got caught in the Bernie van because of what a wonderful thing for us that David Crow is doing was playing the Convo Couch on the screen of the Bernie van, and people were tuning in and watching us, people that may have never heard of our show before. So it was awesome. And so Jonny was filming in the surrounding areas. Then suddenly, they gave the order and they started throwing tear gas. And so we were in the van and we stayed there. Okay, we're going to close the van. We're going to chill here because there's so much tear gas around us. So then the feds came in and, they didn't give us any time. They knocked and then they smashed the windows while we were in there. And you guys can see the video on my Twitter. It's on my Twitter. It's like a 45-second video that Jonny edited with Inhumans of late stage capitalism, where other journalists we met there, and we were there, and Pasta and I were throwing sparkling water all over our faces because we couldn't breathe. I thought I was gonna die because I couldn't breathe, and you're just inhaling more of that toxic chemical. And we have another video that shows you what's in those canisters because it is so toxic, and you could die from it potentially. We saw.
And we saw a lot of weaponry on the ground that seemed to be federal used weaponry. We have to do a little bit more research on it, but I'm assuming it is because they were projectiles that come out and almost like a rubber bullet grenade of sort that also has gas in it, whatnot. And let me tell you something. Day one when we got there a little bit late, but we got there before the feds came out. We experienced the tear gas the very next day. That's why we're wearing the helmets. And it's actually kind of funny that I'm wearing my Fred Hampton shirt over here because just less than an hour ago, Donald Trump has announced that he is sending the feds now to Chicago. And if you don't know, Chairman Fred Hampton of the Black Panther Party of Illinois of Chicago, that's his hometown. Now, Donald Trump is sending the feds there. He just announced it, and they will show up in Chicago the same way they were in Portland. These were federal agents, marshals. They came out with tear gas, rubber bullets. I mean, people were shot, and they're rounding up what they consider to be these Antifa-like kind of characters, and that's what Donald Trump is putting towards the press. But once again, this is against our civil liberties. There's no arrest warrant. There's no rights. There's no chance for a phone call. There's no lawyers. We don't even know where these kids are taken or these people are taken and where they're coming from. This is something serious, which I think we should start talking about some of the tactics and some of the stuff that went on with this whole kind of rally and protest, because I really like the whole mother's things. I love the father's things. You said the chefs are now coming out there. The people of Portland, the everyday people are showing, hey, every walks of life, we don't want you here, feds. Go home. We don't need you to protect the federal courtyard or a federal court building from graffiti. That's not why you send in the goddamn freaking federal troops. But then later at night, we can see some tactics we might not necessarily agree on. The burning of a tree, the burning of the doors to kind of bring them out. There were all different types of group there. It's not a monolith, fam, and you can explain that a little bit more. And your thoughts on where you think we're going from here with these protests. Now that we've been to a lot of these protests, whether it be the one in Beverly Hills, be the Black Lives Matter ones we saw in the streets with the cops, you tell us your opinion of where you think these are going. What's going to happen in Chicago?
Well, yeah, I mean, these people aren't a monolith, and that's what we have to remember. Like, a lot of us on the left, we want all of these issues covered, right? We need to have Medicare for all. We need to start talking about what the hell's going to happen at the end of the month when people aren't getting the $600 that they were supposed to be getting. We still don't have any sort of system in place to help small businesses, for instance, that are collapsing left and right. The housing crisis that's coming right now, no protections for renters. So all these things are on the minds of people, I think. But what we saw in Portland was that every able-bodied person from anywhere was able to go protest, was able to kind of be a part of something bigger. And in Portland, they have a history of protesting. They have a history of white supremacy, too. It's one of the... there's a lot of racial tension all throughout Oregon, especially the rural areas. But the people went in there and they started making shields. They started uniting, and I saw a lot of people help each other. Like, hey, do you need a mask? We were able to get masks from people who were protesters, goggles from people who were protesters, and I think that just means that people are fed up, because the emphasis wasn't even obviously people were there for Black lives, but people were also there because the feds are overstepping their boundaries. And this is something that we got to point out, the hypocrisy of the Republican and the Democrats, right? Because Nancy Pelosi's over there talking about how she hates Donald Trump and she hates what he's doing, yet she's enabling him. The Democrats just voted against Bernie Sanders' legislation to cut the Pentagon, to cut the military budget by 10%. That is like an insult, almost 10%. And they can't even do that. So while they're telling you on Twitter, that they care about you, they're actually pushing legislation that enables Trump. Now, on the other end, the right wing is really embracing Donald Trump's rhetoric, and Donald Trump is embracing his base. He's fueling this sort of race war, and it's a mistake for him because it's only going to push people away. He's also going back on the mask thing. Now he's telling people to wear masks. And so what we're seeing is a hypocrisy of a lot of these Republicans who have always said, oh, we want small government, we want big government out of the way. We're seeing that hypocrisy come out because it's like, well, why aren't you speaking out against the feds coming in and infringing on states' rights? Why aren't you speaking out against all the civil liberties you always love to talk about? The Constitution. Where are people's First Amendment rights? Pops and I had to shout press, press, press as we were having guns pointed at us. We don't know if we were going to get shot or not. I mean, where are those people who were supposed defenders of that? So we're seeing this divide get bigger. And that's what I feel like they're going to do. Because if we focus on a race war, we can't have a class war. Yeah. And so we always have to have that in the back of our minds. Because that's, at the end of the day, if we're too busy fighting each other, we're not going to look at the oligarchs.
And I think that's a great point, Fiorella, that right now Donald Trump is putting this on a silver platter for us. This is a chance for, and like once again, I don't ever want to sound like I'm lacking compassion, but right now this is a time where if we had a Fred Hampton, like, let's bring this together, ladies and gentlemen. This is serious right now. Our imperialism is brought home from what they used to do over in other countries, you know what I'm saying? Where they would just grab people off the streets, put them in secret prisons, not even give them their rights, treat them like complete animals, terrible. And now they're doing the same thing on our streets. This is the time to unite. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. I don't think we're necessarily moving there away from it, but I'd like to see somebody come around and like a Cornel West, like a Reverend Barber, and let's bring this together right now, ladies and gentlemen, because we need more people in the streets. There was about 3,000 people there, right? We need 30,000. We need 30,000 because I'm really not sure and convinced right now that Donald Trump is going to lose despite all this disasters and despite him doubling down on this, because the mainstream media always shows the rioters. These people are rioting, and they always say they're rioting against the small people. They're killing small businesses. So now this whole rhetoric is out there where still a lot of people are feeling that they agree with Donald Trump, and a lot of people who are not as well educated to what's going on don't see the nuance and the dangers of having federal officers on the street arresting people in secret vehicles without identifying themselves, without lawyers being available, without reading your rights. This is some serious stuff over here. So Chicago awaits.
And I just want to say, too, that I think we are actually moving in that direction. But these protests, for instance, are so big that there's not one leader. Like we were talking about, like it's not a monolith, right? There's people who have different tactics. There's people that were arguing, as we captured in our video, over what to do. People are still trying to figure it out. But the one important thing I want to highlight again is that first it was the soccer moms that came, then it was the dads. Now it's the chefs. Once you get working class people like that, now you're putting chefs on there. Who's suffering the most from these crises, like when it comes to the small restaurants? Chefs, people in the restaurant industry. Next, maybe they can focus on retail workers. But everybody's looking at the Pacific Northwest, whether it was Seattle, who has pushed the Tax Amazon campaign and has succeeded in getting that done, or Portland, that's leading the way with these protests. And now the fact that Donald Trump has empowered that, because now he's saying, oh, we're going to send these agents everywhere, people are going to get up and start protesting. And now that's all colliding with the economic uncertainty of millions of people in this country who are going to run out of their benefits. And now people are going to be like, wait a minute now that's something I'm going to get on the ground and protest. And I think if we allow this to kind of develop the way it is and jump on it and get people who are like really great organizers out there to be like, okay, here are my list of demands. We need this in our city. Bam, bam, bam. It all has to happen at a city level too.
Absolutely. Maddie Zubik, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. It is always appreciated in front of the Capitol building. I was watching at 5:30 a.m. and I was so scared for you guys. Thanks for your bravery and courage. They're talking about me, fam. Thank you so much. And thank you to all those people who left those Super Chat contributions, ladies and gentlemen. These trips are not cheap, and you guys do help us out. And we want to let you know if we missed your name because when Johnny was streaming, we were walking around, we weren't able to say thank you. We're saying it now. Thank you so much for helping us with the Super Chat contribution. Thank you for the resubscribers and the people who are endorsing us on ROKFIN, ROKFIN. Bob Swarnick with the jet symbol, Johnny. Shut up. Thank you for the Super Chat contribution. You made us proud. Excellent work. And there's more to come. And thank you for that help.
Fam.
Yes.
So, you and Johnny have been doing a lot of work on a particular case with Raji Rob, but did you want to say anything?
Yeah. You want to take
Before-
a stroll over there?
We should take
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let me hold it for you. You
Well,
can take
as
over
we
there.
walk, I want to talk about a little bit of Portland.
Good.
Um,
Tell them we're gonna take a walk on over to the. Tell them where we're going.
yeah, we're walking over to the Superior Court
Make sure
of
we're going
Laws
the right way.
of Sacramento of California. It's this way.
Yes.
So wait, I wanted to continue talking about the protest because
Yeah,
there was a while there where I was streaming by myself, kind of watching this whole thing play out, right?
Yeah.
So in the very beginning, there were thousands of people. And so after we did our little segment, our little show, we went off to our separate ways, and then I went into the crowd. I didn't realize when I got into the crowd that I thought there was like 500 people. As I got into the crowd, and when they did that thing where they did the light up the phones with the lights with their phones, thousands of people. That was incredible. If you haven't seen the live stream, go back to that 5-hour live stream that is on our page, and you should watch it. Now, there was thousands of people there, and they started marching. The leaders of this movement, it's not like they're I don't know. They seem very natural to me. They seem very natural. My only small criticism of that protest was that I want to talk about solutions. I want to talk about Medicare for all. I want to talk about UBI. When we were leaving Portland, we stopped by the federal building again. The day after the Bernie van the window got smashed, and there was a gentleman who was on a megaphone there at around like 5 p.m. And watch out behind you. Yeah, just stay in one lane. There was a gentleman there who was there around 5. Yeah, I think it was like around 2 p.m. 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he was, just on a megaphone, just talking to the people of the streets. There wasn't that many people. They were painting all the graffiti you saw. All the graffiti you saw in the on that federal building is now painted over. I'm sure after last night, there's probably more graffiti. The gentleman was talking about. He was yelling. There was there's some hecklers there. Some people who were like, "Oh, shut up," and it was a white lady and Karen. I got the opportunity to come up to him and ask him. I was like, "What about Medicare for all?" And he started talking about Medicare for all. He was like, "Yes, with coronavirus, a pandemic, we need Medicare for all." So it was interesting. I mean, the whole experience. Fiorella and Pasta were in the van, and that was when they ran into the van because that's when the feds came out first. They're like 12:26, 12:30, 12:27, and I had stopped on a bench to get a better view of what the feds were doing, and then Fee and Pasta went into the van. I tried to go into the van. You guys didn't hear me knocking, probably. But anyways, I got out of there because I didn't have any of my facial coverings on, and I was coughing hard. I went to a corner where there wasn't any smoke, and I was able to get my mask on, get the triple layer on, get the goggles on, and go back in. And what we saw, they were launching multiple missiles, little chemical weapons, rubber bullets, rubber pellets, and it was just a brutal scene. So now, it was brutal, and I don't know. I had like 1,000-yard stare after it all. I know you guys saw it when we were in the hotel. Like, I had 1,000-yard stare. I was there for 5 hours, streaming, capturing all this. But in the beginning, I thought it was beautiful. Especially when they passed by the memorial. Oh, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. There was George Floyd memorial with so many names. There's so many names of these slain Black Americans, and It's a shame, fam. Do you have any last words on Portland at all?
I mean, yeah. Just I don't know. Like, just it. Regardless of how you feel politically, I think that, you know, I think this is wrong, regardless of where you lie on the political spectrum. Because if you think about it, we on the left should care about our free speech, our civil liberties, and we on the people who are more conservative, right? You're allowed to be conservative if you want, but if you talk about being conservative and you say you believe in the Constitution, you believe in our civil liberties, you believe in all of these things, you should also protect the rights of people, right? And I just think rights were being broken left and right in Portland, are being broken. They've continued to be broken all over this country. So when we're discussing a lot of these issues, when we want to help all these people, we have to remember that economics is such a big part of it. Because if we're not addressing economic concerns and we're only addressing social concerns, the change is only going to be symbolic. Yep. It's not going to be tangible. And so when we're talking about finding solutions, those solutions that we find have to be, we have to start putting those into play. We have to start putting demands on these people. We don't have time to wait 4 more years. We don't have time for anything regarding the electorate anymore. So that's just basically, I think we need to really start setting out these demands. And I think we're going to see that now with the unemployment running out.
Super Chat contribution from Malik Clary. Hi, Pasta, Fiorella, and Johnny. This is my first donation from the East Coast. You guys are doing great work and becoming my favorite news team. Stay safe, stay strong. Heart, fist pump up. Yes, that's what's going on. We're almost over here now to the Superior Court of California. So, yes, sir.
My question for Pasta and Fee right now are, what happened in the Super Tuesday, March 3rd elections, California? What happened to all the votes?
Well, as you know, as you follow in this station, the votes, who knows where they went. Some of them went missing in the counting tabulation machines. Some of the mail-ins were whatever. They're what?
They're all provisionals.
And we witnessed a shit ton of provisionals. Provisional ballot, provisional ballot, provisional ballot. So, yeah, John, we got to be careful going through here right now with cameras. People get, yeah. Let's go this way real quick. We'll go this way. We're going to go over here. The reason why we're talking about this today is because we had some serious situations go down. We have a guy who's been fighting for election integrity, Raji Rob. And he made a little trip to this court the other day, and we're going to tell you why once we get out right in front of it to explain what's what. So that's why we're walking over there. We want to be careful and quiet walking through this area. Yep, we want to be nice. This is 9th and J Street is right over here. So I think it's right over here. Yeah, so on election night, we did this in detail. We showed you guys. We're going to go back and recap. This is what happened, ladies and gentlemen, so you could just kind of get an idea of what's going on. We studied what was going to happen on election day, the whole process of the front of the house, how people vote, how they register, how they come up, what's a provisional, what's a conditional. All these things we brought into question, okay? And we saw it coming. And on election night, there were lines, 5-hour lines, 6-hour lines. Fee was going from vote center to vote center to vote center, and every single one you went to was a long line. Now, whose vote was suppressed? Bernie Sanders' vote was suppressed. Why? Because he gets the late, more progressive vote. So that is why, and that's what happened. And ever since we've been trying to protest these elections, find out what's going on, fight them in the courts, they've put up roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. All we're asking for is transparency. We want to see what's in the machines. We want to know how they're counted. We want to make sure that the machines aren't tabulating and counting at the same time. Anything that gives the establishment advantage, we want to make sure and we want to see it open in transparency. Well, The other day they were trying to push aside Raji Rab's case, trying to bury it under the COVID-19 crisis by saying they can't open up the courts. They refused to answer the phone call. So he got in a plane and he flew to Sacramento to deliver the paperwork to continue his case going on. And Jonny can give you a little bit more information about that, what he was trying to deliver.
Okay, so Raji's he's contesting election fraud. It's not even election. It's not even a voter suppression. It's blatant fraud. And he's said that to us. He's told us that multiple times, where he wants it to be known that he's contesting election fraud. And you know what we saw. We saw 3-hour plus long lines when we had to vote. We saw multiple thousands of people being given provisional ballots. We saw tens of the voting machines, the ballot marking devices, all those getting jammed, ballot marking devices being broken. There was bad ad campaign for how to vote, and they launched a brand new system this year, that was what that was a new system launched on this really important election.
What's going on?
Hold on. I'm just saying where we are.
Jonny, you're getting good at reporting. Here, hold on. Super chat contribution from Jesus says, Jonny, you're getting good at reporting. So what we're doing is we're going over to the Superior Courthouse where we had to fly, where Roger had to fly in yesterday. Want to go right here? Oh, we got to wait. We don't want to cross the thing. But this is the area where, I mean, and it's the situation. How are they going to do this? It's COVID. They're going to shut people out. They're not going to let them have their continuations. And that's what they tried to do. That's what the legislation was trying to do. That's what the establishment is trying to do. They're just trying to bury this situation and make it go away. And Jonny even talked about putting out a diagram to show you how many times, every single time something happens, they move the goalpost again. And they try to cheat you again. And right now we've been just trying to work it through the courts, watching Raji Rab work it through the courts, and they're trying to do everything to stop him. United States of America. Fam, I'm wearing my helmet because I don't want to get shot by the feds. So, right here, this is it. Right over here. Ladies and gentlemen, election integrity is one of the most important issues. We know we've been following all these rallies, these protests, but this is something that's important to us, and we're going to continue this fight to go on. It was symbolic of us to come over here and see what happens and see where we're trying to fight this fight. And we're trying to fight it at every angle. And this is something we need you guys to get on with us. This is the most important issue, because without this issue, nothing falls into place. You want Medicare for all? Good. Well, we need the representative government that's going to give us Medicare for all. You want a Green New Deal? Yeah, we need to get those people in here who are going to fight to make sure that we have a Green New Deal to get us the clean infrastructure in the United States. But we don't get it unless we get past this. Right here, ladies and gentlemen. Right here. The courts are jacked up. The elites are against us. They are fighting us tooth and nail. They are making sure that your choice, that they get their person who is selected, not the person that you want elected. And if they got that in control, no progressive policy will ever be passed. No progressive policy. They'll give us little crumbs, they'll give us little things, but they're not going to give us anything serious, and they haven't for a long time because they've been controlling it right here. And the people in this building right here, the judges, they back up the elites. They bury cases. They're trying to bury Raji Rab's case. We have a lot of evidence against them. And you know what? Raji's fighting. He came over here. It was big that he's done it. Take a look at the video Jonny made up. Raji Rabi fighting all the way to the Supreme Court. Fam, you want to say anything?
On the screen, I'm showing the petition right now. He has a petition going on. It says Hold LARRCC, which stands for Los Angeles Registrar Recorder. I forgot the rest. And Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, California Secretary of State Alex Padilla for 2020 election fraud and release vote count machine evidence. Raji has been fighting from the beginning for this cause, and it's a big deal, guys. We have to get this out to the people. We need a lot of people to sign that petition. We need to bring more attention to it because he's got them. They admitted in some of the paperwork that they made mistakes, that they broke some election codes.
They did.
But the judge is literally trying to throw it out as they're listening to the word of Alex Padilla and Dean Logan and all them. They're listening only to their word. They're not looking at any of the evidence. They're not allowing discovery. They're not allowing. They allowed some type of discovery.
They very little, but the whole thing they're trying to do is they're trying to put it aside and move on to the next one. It's the same tactic they use over and over again. That's why it's a little depressing that some of the election integrity activists are now for a long time. They never want to stop and smell the roses. They say, let's just go on to the next election. Let's go on to the next election. No. How can we go forward if we allow people to cheat and get away with it? How could the Democratic Party can sit there in a court in Florida, the Jared Beck case, Nico House was in the house, when they say they can go to the back room filled with cigar smoke and pick whoever they want? Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the fight starts, right here. This is it, and it's important, and we'll never get anything done if we don't kick this in the butt. Election integrity means that much. Now, you might disagree with me, but I feel strongly about this, and I think it's something we need to really look into. Why, ladies and gentlemen, is it allowed? When Raji's trying to fight to see what's inside the tabulation machines, to see if we have a democracy, they can say, no, it's proprietary software. We don't have to show you anything. And then they could try to change each court case and each time move the goals. Oh, you used the wrong terminology. No, we're going off the last terminology. They pull every little trick of the trade out. Oh, no, we went with your first thing. You called it a 2-in-1. It's not. It's a 2.0. He goes, yeah, because your dumbasses, what they did was send him the manual. So now he has a manual, and now we're trying to go even further because that's how ignorant these people are. That's how confident they are they'll get away with it, that nothing will happen to them. Because we, the people, haven't said enough to say, hey, F you. Throw your asses in jail. You cheat the people, we throw you in jail.
That's right. They actually sent the manual to Raji, and on there. So Raji's biggest claim is that the machines in the back room, which I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, I have a video up there, and the biggest claim is that the machines in the back that do the counting, the scanning, the reading of the ballots are 2-in-1 machines. It's like you can see it in the video. They're giant machines. They take up about 10 feet of space, and in the manual it says that they not only tally, it also scans. So there's a difference between scanning and tallying. And if you look at election code 15101B, that's where it says that 10 days prior to the election, you can start scanning the ballots. It doesn't say anything about tallying the ballots, about counting the ballots. And even if it does, who has access to that machine? Why are we using these machines? What happened to the $300 million that we had that was supposed to be used to improve this election, not create a disaster where there were 3-hour fucking lines, machines breaking left and right, and lower income communities seeing provisional ballots handed to every single person? When we went into that provisional room, the last names, Rodriguez, all Hispanic, Garcia.
About that there a little bit, what you saw with the provisional ballots and where we saw on election night, and we would call people.
So when we went into that room, we had to go through a whole process just to get in there, and we had to have these people with us. And then Jeff Klein came out too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he came right out. He happened to be there, and he walked with us, making sure no pictures, no video, none of that. And what we found out was that the people that were certifying whether these ballots were valid or not were people that were recently hired for gig jobs that, I'm sure these people had never done that before. It's not something that you make a career out of. And they were, they had a process, and they were being trained on the spot as we were there on how to go about this process. And it's like, well, that's where your vote is. It's up to one person to maybe follow this sort of protocol that they were just taught to decide if your vote counts or not. I think it's a little bit ridiculous. And there was hundreds of thousands of ballots in there, an entire room full of these ballots, and the vast majority of them said machine issues. A lot of them machine issues, of course, that we all warned everybody about. And then also the vast majority of the names were Latino names, right? And we witnessed that night we went, when we saw the ballots being handed out to the Latino people were provisional ballots, and they were telling them, oh no, this is the same as the other ballot. And they were lying to them, and we said, no, this is not the same, your vote might not count. And we were screaming that, and we had to leave eventually, but we made some people leave the line because we wanted them to vote, but we wanted their vote to count. And so that was also it. And I think Pasta brings up a great point about election integrity, how important it is. I also think we can resolve the election integrity issue too by having free public elections, funding our elections through the public. In a certain way, you get transparency. All we want is transparency. We just want the people to have transparency. And so if we are able to control our elections, if they have to be public, if they can no longer have proprietary software, that's how you change that, because then they can't do that. They have to show everything to everybody at any point at all, whether it's a paper ballot. There should always be a paper trail in general, but even if you use a machine, if we have access to the data at every second, the people, by we I mean the people, then that also solves the problem. So I think what's happening here is a really big issue that many people aren't paying attention to, but it's time to pay attention to it, as well as also act out on the streets and start demanding things like election integrity outside too.
And Raji's been fighting for a public oversight committee is one of his demands. And that's something like, why is that like not a thing? Right. Like, how is that not installed already? You got to think about these things when you see how they set up the system. The other thing that we wanted to talk about was the fact that these judges, they've literally been trying to stop Raji at every turn. They've been using all their tactics. They all have a bunch of tactics. There's we do a demur, we do the judge. So in this specific case, Raji wrote a complaint, and then he decided to amend his complaint. But then the judge that took the case focused on the complaint, even though it's in his right to do an amendment complaint, and then they threw out the amendment complaint, and they're not even worrying about the amendment complaint. And they did the judge made a decision on the complaint, but it's like a BS decision because he was able to amend the complaint. So the first version of that complaint is what the judge is judging the case on, and saying that there's no basically the judge is saying that it doesn't think he'll get anything in court, basically, right? He won't succeed in court.
Would you say the judges are biased in this case?
To me, it looks like they're literally taking the word of Alex Padilla, Dean Logan, and everything. Let's just take a look at the machines. Yep. Why can't we take a look at the machines? Those should be public. Why are they proprietary software? Who is printing the ballots? Who's doing the processing of the ballots? Where are the ballots being brought from, and where are they being taken to? And on election day, where are they coming from and where are they going to? All this should be public information that's easy to see and easy to access. So we've been fighting really hard with Raji. You can see his petition. I had it up on the screen earlier. If you go on Google, look up change.org, or go on change.org, do a search for Raji, R-A-J-I-R-A-B, Raji Rob, and we're here,
Oh, is that it, ladies and gentlemen? I think we covered everything, right? And we're on low power mode. Listen, I want to send a special shout out to our good friend Jackson Frax. Throughout this whole craziness, we've actually been vegans for 4 days. So we've kind of messed in there. If you haven't checked out Jackson Frax, Jackson, one word, Frax, 2 words. He's great. Thank you to him. Thank you to Morgan, all those people out there who cooked for us. It was beautiful, and all those people who helped it out. We do appreciate it, and we love you for helping us out and doing that stuff. So special. Seattle peeps out there, all the people, the homeboy in Portland was amazing. So, yeah, I mean, he was just great. He talked about that stuff. I don't even remember his name, but we met so many great people out there. Zcon, we love you, man. Thank you so much. Zcon actually supported us. He went through a lot of stuff. He's offered his place in Portland next time we come. We love you, Zcon. Thank you for watching. I'm Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And, Johnny, let me let you see yourself when you do it.